Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Friday to you. This is Tess Crawley, clinical and forensic psychologist and director of Dr. Tess Crawley and Associates, coming to you live from the sunny little seaside community of Orford, where I have been for the last couple of days, which is on the east coast of Tasmania. If you've not been to the east coast of Tasmania before, I highly recommend you check it out. It's one of my favourite places in the world, I would have to say. And I've actually spent today catching up with some lovely friends that we have here. Now, I'm just sharing my post here into the Stigma Rebellion, which is, of course, our little closed community. It's a group, what's called a closed group on Facebook that you can request to join, and I accept all requests to join. It just means that you can interact live or comment later without all your other Facebook friends knowing what you're doing. So it's a bit more private in that sense. And I'm also sharing into my Rural Psychology Tasmania Facebook page, which if you know anything about our practice, you will know that we have a very special interest in rural mental health. We also have another Facebook page called Hobart Perinatal Psychology. We have a really strong and passionate interest in perinatal and infant mental health in our practice. Now, if you don't know anything about us, we're a psychology practice. Our head office is in Hobart. We've also got an office in Launceston in the north of Tasmania, and we do outreach to rural areas in the north of Tasmania and throughout the east coast of Tasmania. I'm also going to share this into some professional pages that we have going. So we've got, where are we? If I share into a group, we've got Rural Mental Health Professionals Australia. So if you've not come across this yet, I've set up a closed community for rural mental health professionals. So if you are a mental health or a medical professional based in a rural community and you'd like to be a part of a network of rural mental health and other health professionals, it's a closed group called Rural Mental Health Australia and Rural Mental Health Professionals Australia. Just ask to join that and let me know what your interest in the group is. So if you're a health professional or a mental health professional and you're either based in a rural community or you have an interest in rural mental health, then you're eligible to join that group. And finally, I will share this into our other closed community, which is Psychology Supervisors Australia. So again, if you are a psychology supervisor, so a board-approved supervisor of other psychologists, and you'd like to join another closed forum for professional support, then go on in and join, request to join. And again, do please let me know if you're a board-approved supervisor or if you're training to become a board-approved supervisor for psychology. Now, the emphasis today seems to be on psychology, but I must also say, of course, we do have two at the moment mental health accredited social workers as part of our team, and I'm hoping to build on that and build a bigger multidisciplinary focus within our broader teams. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about anxiety, and I'm actually in a room in our little shack under renovation in Orford that inspired today's talk. Yesterday when we arrived here from Hobart, there was a beautiful little, I'm guessing it was a native finch, beautiful little bird in here, in this room, and we had the windows open and the kids were a bit worried about this bird, and it was flying around the room. We had this great big window wide open for the bird to escape from, but it would fly around the room, and then it would sit. There's a big mirror on the other side of the room, and it would sit on top of that mirror and just watch what we were doing, and it wouldn't leave. So in the end, we went out and we left the windows wide open as far as they would go, and when we got back, the bird had gone. And it got me thinking about what happens when we're highly anxious and what happens when we feel that sense of overwhelm that comes with anxiety. And have you ever had one of those moments where you've been overwhelmed in a situation and you need to make a decision and you just can't? You need to decide how to act or decide what to say. Or it might be a good example is public speaking, where you're not used to public speaking. You've got your notes in front of you and you're standing up in front of a crowd of people, and all of a sudden you're so overwhelmed that the words won't come, and your mouth's gone dry and you don't know what to say. Some people talk about in traumatic experiences and emergency situations that they're frozen, and that in hindsight they could see perfectly what they needed to do in that situation, but during that moment, that traumatic moment, they could not for the life of them engage in an action that was required to assist in that emergency situation. So often we talk about the fight or flight response as being that survival instinct response, but often neglected when we talk about the fight or flight response is the third element, which is freeze. So when you look at the animal world, so if you look at, a good example is a mouse. So you look at a mouse and it sees a cat come scampering around the corner. Is the mouse likely to engage in a fight response with the cat? Not really. It's going to either flee the situation, which is that flight response or that anxiety and self-preservation reaction, and get the hell out of there. Or if the cat has taken the mouse by surprise and has pounced, the mouse might play dead. So what we would call playing dead. The mouse hasn't made a conscious decision to do that. The mouse has enacted that third alternative in the fight or flight response, which is the freeze reaction. Now, it's actually, from an evolutionary perspective, from the mouse's perspective, a really clever third option, because it means that the mouse, by playing dead, the cat's not going to have much fun by batting it around the room. Hi Tracy, thanks for joining this afternoon. The cat's not going to have an awful lot of fun batting the mouse around the room, so it's going to get bored and it's going to go away. The mouse might still lie there for a second or two, and then it's going to run off as soon as it knows that it's safe. So when this little bird was captured in our room here yesterday, and the kids were fascinated. They could see this great big open window, they could see this tiny little bird, and they were saying to me, "Mummy, why is the bird not just flying out the window?" I was trying to explain to them, when you're highly anxious and highly stressed, the solution to a problem might not be apparent to you. You're so caught up in that fight or flight reaction and so caught up in that survival instinct that sometimes it's a bit like that freeze reaction. So the obvious solution, so the bird flying out the window, for the bird, it had to figure that out for itself. And at that particular time, we were a greater source of threat than the window presented an obvious solution. So the bird was more concerned about what we were going to do to it and flying around the room trying to avoid us than it had available resources to notice that the window was open and was an obvious source of escape. So sometimes when we're in a really stressful situation, we can become quite frustrated with ourselves because we're so anxious, so overwhelmed, so overwrought that we can't see the wood for the trees. We can't see what might otherwise seem an obvious solution to our situation. Now, this is why, as mental health professionals, we place so much emphasis on grounding skills. So these are the breathing techniques and the mindfulness strategies and all those strategies that are aimed at quietening down that physiological reaction to anxiety and to trauma. So we teach you how to ground yourself, how to calm yourself, so that you can see the open window and fly through it. Because until you're able to see what's going on around you from a more calm perspective, you're going to keep flying around the room, not knowing what to do with yourself because you're so overwhelmed with what's going on in your body and what's racing around in your mind. So when you hear psychologists and other mental health professionals talk about breathing and think, well, what the hell's that got to do with it? This is exactly what it's got to do with it. It is about quietening your mind, settling your body down so that you can find a space for your brain to go, right, now I can actually stop and survey the situation. Now, it might be a physical situation that you're in, or it might be facing a stressful bill that you don't know how you're going to pay. You know, that awful feeling you get, that panicky feeling that you get when you open an awful bill. You think of the phone bill or the electricity bill or something, and you get so stressed and overwhelmed and so panicked about how you're going to solve that situation. It's only when you've calmed yourself that you might then start to see that there is a solution. You can ring the phone company and say, I'll pay it off over a period of time. Or you can ring the electricity company and challenge them on the size of the bill if you think they've made a mistake, which you might not think to do while you're so caught up in that stress. Hi Judy, I can see you've joined today too. Welcome aboard. So the whole point today is I want you to think about that little bird that was flying around in this room with me yesterday, that was so caught up in its own anxiety response that it was making a mistake. It was seeing us as a source of threat, which of course we weren't, and it wasn't seeing the obvious escape solution, which was the open window. So that anxiety reaction, although it's a natural one, and when you are in an emergency situation and the fight or flight reaction kicks in and doesn't freeze you, it's a great reaction to have. Sometimes even for humans, the freeze response is helpful because it might stop you from diving into an even more dangerous situation. So you think about emergency situations such as a fire, where it might be your reaction to jump in to try and rescue someone, but that could have, tragic consequences for you as well. So sometimes the freeze response is a very healthy self-preservation mode for us as humans as well. So think about the bird flying around my room. Think about how it took us to leave the house with the window open for the bird to calm down enough to see the open window to fly away to freedom. And think of yourself in a stressful situation, caught up with that physiological reaction, that fight or flight response, the head that's spinning with all those stressful thoughts. Think about calming your breathing down. So diaphragm-based breathing, not chest breathing. Calming your breathing down, practicing some mindfulness strategies if you're skilled with those, getting yourself calm, and then reassess the situation and then make a decision about how to handle it. Okay, that's it from me today. I hope that was helpful. I'll be back again tomorrow, heading back to Hobart tomorrow. So I do hope you have a lovely Friday night tonight, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. And I hope you've got a lovely restful weekend ahead planned. Do remember that I really do welcome your comments. If you've got some topics you'd like me to talk about, let me know. I've actually had quite a number of requests already for topics, and I'm thinking ahead to some clever ways that I can address those, because I'm not an expert on all topics. So there are a couple of requests that have been made. One already was the topic on carers, where I posted a video by a colleague, Samantha Dew from WA, who she did a video on carers. So I thought I would share her video because it's not an area of expertise for me. There's been a couple of other topic requests that I could speak on, but I actually know a couple of members in my team who have current active interests in those areas. So I'm going to see if I can convince them to talk to you on those topics. So you'll have to watch this space. So if you've got some requests that you'd love us to cover, please do keep those requests coming. I am noticing all of them and thinking about how I can address them, either personally or via a member of my team or through another colleague. Anyway, as I said, give us a thumbs up if you're liking these videos. Let me know if there's a comment or a question that you'd like to share, and have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow. Happy Friday to you all. Bye-bye.